Good afternoon, C3EB attendees. Welcome to this keynote, very, very special keynote on day 2 of our Culturally Competent Conversations for Equity and Belongingness Summit. This is a keynote that I've literally been waiting for 6 weeks now. And I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this keynote so much. Before I introduce our keynote speaker for today, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Make sure you comment whether you're watching live or watching this later. Make sure you comment because we are monitoring our comments, and we will make sure that your comments and questions get back to the speakers of the sessions and the presentations. So please send us your questions, send us your feedback. It only helps us. Second thing I want to mention is that this summit and our future programming would not have been possible if not for our partners and sponsors who believed in this project and believed in this initiative and decided to walk the walk with us. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you to my partners and sponsors, including Essential IT, my web team, Defy the Status Quo Marketing, our content specialist, Zanzibar Enterprises, owned by our wonderful keynote speaker for this session, and the Nielsen Company. And one last thing I do want to mention, especially the connection between Essential IT and Zanzibar Enterprises, is a huge thank you to my web tech project manager, Tisha, for introducing me to Zanzibar, because through Zanzibar, all of us get to experience Zanzibar and 2 other amazing coaches. One we experienced yesterday in Tia Neo Imes, and tomorrow we're gonna be hearing from Carolina Aramburo, and all of that happened because Tisha connected me to Zanzibar, and here we are making all of this happen. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you. Now, without further ado, I want to first welcome Zanzibar officially to the C3EB Summit platform. Hi, Zanzibar. I am so thrilled you're here.
Me too.
And now, before I give you the stage and let you do your thing, I just want to introduce you to those who may not know you. So Zanzibar is the owner and managing partner at Zanzibar Enterprises, and is somebody who is so insightful. This is just a little bit about Zanzibar in his own words. And I quote, "I skipped college and helped to create a technology company before starting a career training and developing people. After leading programs for over 20,000 people, I launched a business consulting practice, which has doubled the size of 103 businesses. My mission in life is to unleash inner magnificence in people. I use business as an access to service that mission. My company reverse engineers business results, and we do not miss. It turns out higher conscious solutions in business are always 5 to 10 times more effective than traditional approaches. Everything in business is an act of creativity, and there are always multiple ways to accomplish a vision. At the heart of it all is unleashing the inner magnificence of people." Oh, I love that. I love this bio, and I just love this work that you do. So again, thank you for agreeing to contributing your immense experience and expertise to the summit and to everybody who's attending this now or later. And so without further ado, please blow us all away.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to do my best to blow everybody away. I love this summit. The summit that we have here is something that I feel that the time has come for it. It's something that's really dear to my heart because there's something that's fundamental about the evolution of the magnificence of humanity that has to do with the togetherness that we have with each other. The summit is shining a spotlight on something that's sorely needed, in my view, in society and for bending consciousness in a particular direction. And I want to make sure that that particular direction keeps being honored and keeps having a voice and keeps being promoted more and more and more and more. It seems like the voices that want to argue for what matters with regard to unity or with regard to human beings coming together or for higher consciousness seem to be the voices that are being drowned out more and more these days. I don't think it needs to be that way. I think that it can actually be that the voices that are arguing for what really matters in the world can be the voices that are the strongest, can be the voices that people are gravitating to, rather than the ones that are the most argumentative or the ones that are the most righteous or the ones that are the most derisive. So the Unity Summit, I think, is incredibly well timed, and I hope it gains an incredible amount of traction going forward from quarter to quarter until the summit for next year. And so I'm really hoping that this kicks off a global conversation that does not die and becomes a champion for the voices that mean to move the world forward in a higher conscious way. That being said, this particular address has to do with business. Although I was originally asked to speak about the dangers of virtue signaling and how to embrace cultural diversity and where does cultural diversity embracement come from and causing unity between cultures. I would love still at some point to talk about those things, but there's an access for all people to start to embrace something at the level of the highest possible unity you can cause between people, because almost everybody works in a company. How can that happen? Or it doesn't even need to be a company. It could be an organization, a community. It could be a homeowners association. It could be a nonprofit. It could be a religious foundation. It doesn't matter. What we're going to talk about is how to cause the highest possible unity or the experience of alignment between people, regardless of sex, regardless of race, regardless of anything. What does it take to cause this highest level of connection between people? And there's a certain kind of leadership that fosters that. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about a certain kind of leadership that fosters this engagement of people. So I'm going to share a screen here for a minute. I think you'll still be able to see my face. At least that is the hope. Of course, Tisha, let me know if I'm doing anything wrong with regard to how this works. So this is about visionary leadership. This is an access to the ultimate alignment, synergy, and performance of a group of people. And we all participate in groups of people. Why we're going to address groups is because, near as I can tell, all of the extraordinary results that have ever been produced in life required a group of people to produce them. Anything from the pyramids, the Equal Rights Acts, or putting a man on the moon, doesn't matter. Whatever your choice is, groups of people produce extraordinary results. Well, certain kinds of groups of people. And there's a way to elicit the magnificence of a body of people if you have your attention on certain things that we mean to have our attention on. Or we could say to have our attention on higher conscious things. Some groups of people don't produce very good results at all. Some groups of people never come together. Some groups of people are mediocre at best, absent any visionary leadership whatsoever, and just kind of flounder inside of taking between unproductive to mildly useful action and then do nothing. Whereas there are some teams that unite under something that truly matters inside of heart and spirit, and then forge a new way of thinking and acting for the entire group of people and maybe for their entire marketplace. As we talk about this a little bit more, I'm going to be giving you examples, both from the companies that I work with and from popular examples that you might have heard of in and around different industries. The game here is when AJ and I were designing what should we do and how much can we get done in a short period of time. I think I have 35 minutes, maybe 40 minutes to see how much we can get done. The idea is to find a way not only to onboard you into the idea of what visionary leadership could look like and the simplicity of it from one perspective, and also where do I begin in fostering one of my own? What kind of vision could I foster for my own that both brings out my inner magnificence but unites everybody inside of theirs? So we're going to see if we can get all of that done inside of 40 minutes. In order to do that, I apologize. I'm going to work pretty quickly through the things that we have that we're going to talk about. If there's time to address certain questions, or if you're putting in certain things that Tisha is looking at, Tisha's our call manager or our conference manager. If we can address a few of the questions or the comments that you have, then great, toward the end. For leadership, this guy is the guy that I take my definition of leadership from. I heard this definition of leadership about 25 years ago, and it informs everything that I do inside of training executives, C-level people, directors, inside of what it takes to be an exceptional leader of people. Leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible. So I will say for a moment that absent any real great management, leadership, even in its highest form, can still fall on its face. I'm not going to be addressing management much as we talk, because this is about fostering the highest possible unity, synergy of a group of people to come together for extraordinary performance. But absent any real management, it kind of doesn't matter how much leadership is there if there is no management. But we'll get to that. We can talk about that another time, for how to guarantee the success of a vision overall through management. But this is about leadership. And Colin Powell is the guy that said this. And I've never been able to find a better definition of leadership and how it plays into the game of business. Okay, so what we're after here is inspired action. You know, there's I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. And AJ, when we did our little our call together as a prep for this, I shared with her this little story. This is still, to this day, I heard this story maybe 25 years ago, and this is still today one of the best stories that I know about what creates the job of leadership. And this is a parable. Many of you have probably heard this parable before, but I'm going to say it anyway. There was a guy kind of jogging along a road. This was a long time ago, maybe in the 1300s or something, or 1200s. I'm going to get the dates wrong, perhaps. And he happened upon somebody that was on the side of the road. And this person was apparently putting into a cart these stones that he was taking out of the side of a cliff. And just out of curiosity, he wanted to know. And he walked up to the person, kind of walked off the road, and took a couple of deep breaths from jogging, walked up to the person and said, hey, I noticed that you're kind of taking these stones. What is it that you're doing? And the guy looked at him, and the guy was kind of weathered. He was probably in his, late 30s, but he looked much older. He looked like he could be 55 or so. Maybe he looked really old, a weathered person. He looked haggard. He looked tired. He didn't look like he was well even. And he looked at the guy and was almost miffed at him and said, well, I'm taking these stones out of the side of a cliff. What's it look like? And he said, well, why are you doing that? And he said, I'm doing this because I need a job. I got to get paid somehow. He's like, oh, okay. And he kept going. By and by, he happened upon another person. And the other person was also doing the same thing, had a cart, and was about another mile down the road. And he got off the thing again. And he noticed as he's coming up to the person was probably somewhere in their middle 40s. But again, looked pretty old, looked to be in the middle 50s, maybe is even the high 50s. And walked up to the person and said, hey, what is it you're doing here? And he looked at the guy and he said, I'm hewing these stones out of the side of a cliff and putting them into this cart. He said, well, why are you doing that? And he said, well, because I have a family back home that I need to take care of. And this is my way of providing for my family. And he's like, oh, okay. Apologize for the disruption. And he kept going. By and by, he happens upon a third person. And the third person, as he's running, he hears this whistling. It was like this melodic tune. It was like a whistling, this tune, and it's like this happy tune. And he happens upon a guy that's also has this cart, and he's taking stones out of the side of a cliff. And he is interested, and he gets closer, and the hears the tune even louder. And he walks up, and there's this guy, and he's doing this work. He must be in his early 60s, but he doesn't look it at all. He looks like he could be like 40 years old. And he asks the guy, he goes, what are you doing here? And he looks at him, and he stops whistling, and he's excited about the opportunity to talk. And he says, you know what I'm doing? I'm building a cathedral. And he goes, really? Why are you doing that? And he says, because this is going to be a gathering place for intelligence and wisdom, and for people to come together and share ideas for generations to come. it's going to make a difference for thousands, maybe even tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And then he went back to doing his work. And the guy that was obviously running was struck by the three different versions of what he'd heard. There's something connected about all of that with what we want to talk about here as it pertains to inspired action. If you think about it, every single action that a human being takes is being taken for a reason. Everything that we do is being done from some concern. I don't say concern like a worry. I don't mean a concern like something that's troubling us. I mean a concern like something of importance that we're responding to, that we have a natural response to. Most of the actions that we take in this world, most of the action that we take, most of the action that most people take is not necessarily inspired action. So there's I live right next to a medical training facility, and I can see it outside my window here. I live kind of up on a hill, and I can see it outside my window, this medical training facility, this medical university. And I bet that if I went into that medical training facility, I would find an enormous amount of useful action happening there. People sitting in classes, or maybe now they're learning virtually, people giving classes, people talking. How much of what they're doing is inspired? How much of it is coming from something that truly matters to heart and spirit, or to the community around them? How many of it is connected to what truly matters for what's meant at the highest possible level for that university to be bringing to the world as a contribution? Maybe none of it. If we were to tell the truth about it, maybe none of the action that's happening right now is connected to anything like that. Maybe the executives are operating the company from what's the kind of money that we can get, and how much enrollment do we need for me to be able to buy my yacht? Maybe the people that are doing it are thinking about what the next job is that they're going to get. Maybe the people that are doing it are not in love with what it is that they're doing at all. Maybe nobody's watching out for the career pathways for the people there, and nobody's excited about the career that they get. How much inspired action is really happening where something of true import is being built that people can cheerfully grab hold of and lift? I don't know, maybe none, maybe a little bit. But I'd bet all the equity in my house it's between a little bit and none. Why would that be? Well, because we don't have visionary leadership. We don't have leadership that's paying attention to what actually matters from both in their heart, spirit, what they mean to bring to the world, and then what that company means to bring to the world. The only reason for a business to exist is not to make money, which flies in the face of when I stand in front of people and talk. I'll usually ask the question from, hey, of course, the only reason for a business to exist is for what? And people will say, in almost across the board, they'll say to make money. No. A business exists to execute a value in a marketplace. And for my advice is to execute an exquisite value in the marketplace. That's the whole point. The whole point of why a business exists is to execute a value in the market. That's it. That's why I have a company. If it does it efficiently and it does it enough, then there's lots of money left over. I can give you case study after case study after case study, from smaller companies that I've worked with to Apple, to Mitsubishi, to GE, where they take their eye off the prize of creating exquisite value, and before long, the company is insolvent. Companies exist to execute extraordinary value in the marketplace, or at least a value. But for the ones that I work with, we're always concentrating on an extraordinary value. Why? Because we have a better shot at getting inspired action. Inspired action is way more effective than dutiful action. So the person that's taking the action to make a living for their family, that's out of duty, that's I'm supposed to do this, I'm doing this. There's nothing wrong with people being dutiful, by the way. I'm not making fun of the dutiful human being. That's cool. There's a lot of actions I take that are dutiful. But inspired action, the action where you're building something and connected to something that truly matters. All three of those guys were just hewing stones out of the side of a cliff. All three of them. They were doing the same thing. One of their actions was inventing something that was so bright, and who they were, the magnificence that they shined with, was through the roof because of what they were connected to. And of course, they're going to be hewing stones in a much quicker way. They're going to be doing it with more pep in their step. They're going to have more energy, the enthusiasm, aliveness. And if you've ever read the book by Viktor Frankl, who has survived a whole bunch of death camps in Nazi Germany, that person's also going to live a lot longer and healthier and more playfully and more alive. But we can talk about that another time. We don't have enough time to get into the psychology and philosophy of the nature of man in this one. Okay, so inspired action is what we're after. It is so much more effective than dutiful action, so much more life-giving, so much more life-producing, so much more magnetic, so much more charismatic. And I don't mean charismatic like the ability to be a charismatic person. I mean the natural magnetism of a person when they're actually connected to what matters. So with leadership, if leadership is the art of accomplishing more than the science of management says is possible, then that means we want inspired action. We want the people around us to be inspired by what they're doing and the action that they're about to take to be driven by something other than duty, but to be driven by something that really matters to them and to the community and to the difference that the company wants to make or the nonprofit and organization wants to make at large. Okay. There's something that I work with executive teams on from time to time, which is that alignment and execution have a one-to-one relationship. If you don't have people aligned around something, the execution is going to be low. If you have people 100% aligned around something, their execution is going to be vastly increased. This is another thing about why visionary leadership. Yes, inspired action is what we're after. But when everyone is aligned with something, collaboration goes up, crosstalk goes up. Even when people argue, what they're arguing for is for something that actually matters because they're aligned in common goal and common purpose. When NASA was out to beat the Russians to the moon, everyone was out to beat the Russians to the moon. It wasn't the executives, it wasn't the astronauts, it wasn't the directors, it was everyone. And the alignment of everyone working towards something has something to do with this phenomenon of extraordinary alignment of people. So when you have alignment of people, something that naturally disappears, that has this natural effect on the culture of an organization or the culture of a group of people, is what naturally disappears is any, I'm going to call it human being nonsense that can creep in there, like judgments, opinions, hurt feelings, ego. What naturally happens with this alignment of people is that cultural differences don't get in the way. All they do is help. Sex differences don't get in the way. All they do is help. People unite. You know, if you've ever watched the movie or done any studying about the integration of races in the South, the movie Remember the Titans, a couple other movies come to mind, but I don't want to linger on it. There's a way in which it captures when you get a group of people that are aligned in common purpose. It doesn't even matter what the common purpose is. It could be something as trivial as a football team. I don't mean that football is trivial. I love football. But it's not certainly of something of societal importance, like the integration of equality across races. It's not that important. It's a football team. But the football team somehow got done what the town couldn't. Why? Alignment. When you have people aligned, the one-to-one relationship between execution and alignment, the moment people get aligned, what disappears is all of the nonsense of human being that gets in the way. When people are not aligned in purpose, when people are not aligned, then what has the opportunity to take over is whatever nonsense goes through people's head, judgments, opinions, wants, feelings, blah. All of it naturally disappears when a group of people is aligned. Now, aligned around what? I want to talk about crafting an exquisite vision. So we're going to just talk about this for a couple of minutes. We don't have a huge amount of time. This is something that I do a training in all by itself. This slide is a training that I work with people on for about 3 hours. But we're going to just kind of run through it real fast here. Crafting the exquisite vision is absolutely important. If you're not working from something that is truly exquisite for you or for your company or a department in a company, you might be a department manager. If you haven't really crafted something that is truly exquisite, you need to start there. That is where everything should be flowing from. And I don't mean a vision statement like something that's on a wall that nobody's paying attention to. Not in the companies that I work with. The vision statement is everything, and we'll talk about that here. So the first bullet point here, it says, it's created as a statement already completed in the future. So we're talking about a way that it isn't right now, that we're causing it to be. We're inventing something. It is an outcome in the future. The second thing, or the first part of this future dynamic that we're creating, is the reputation that you now have in the marketplace or that your department has earned in your company. So it could be a department vision. I'm going to mostly talk about it like a company vision because that's usually the way that I'm working. But I have designed many of these for departments inside of bigger organizations and for divisions as well. So what are you now known for? Why? That's the value proposition. Remember I talked about that what really matters in a company, why it exists is to execute an exquisite value in the market. What is the exquisite value? The reputation you've earned is the value that you've left in the marketplace. There's a whole lot of coaching and training that goes into crafting a value proposition and even maybe some market research to really do a good job crafting a value proposition that flies in the face of the pain points of an industry, creates extraordinary things above and beyond what's available in that industry, and truly sings as it pertains to the heart and spirit of the key executives and the board of directors for that company. Really important to accomplish all that. Why? Alignment. We not only want the alignment of the board of directors, the key executives, and the executives, we want the alignment of the public. We want everyone to go, yes, we want that. We need that. That's what it is. It's one of the things that I love so much about the Unity Summit. It's addressing what is so wanting to happen in the world. So the reputation you have is a kind of a statement of the future of what's your value proposition? What's now known about you 3 years from now, 5 years from now? What's known? That needs to be really well crafted because it's the point to everything. It's what matters. Without it, there's no point to having the company. Well, we want a company to make money. Well, then you shouldn't have a company. It's the wrong reason to have a company. Pay attention to what matters about business. You make a lot of money. Okay, so the second thing is a cultural statement of what the group you command. What does it look like now? What does this group of people look like now, 3 years from now? Don't say what it looks like in this moment. 3 years from now, what is it going to look like? What are we playing for? What do we want our team? Are we a high energy team that produces extraordinary results? Are we work hard, play hard mentality? Are we a team where everybody has each other's backs? Are we a huge developmental firm where we're going to develop the crap out of people? What is the culture of this group? There's 1,000 different ways that you can call it. Call it something. Create a real culture in your business or a direction for something. There's, again, a lot of things we can coach about the direction that you can take a business in to craft a truly exquisite company culture about the group of people that you have. But we're not going to go there for right now. But that's the second thing you need because that's the next most important thing. We've got what we're about as an organization or a division, and then we've got what we're about for each other. And then size and scope. This needs to be in there, especially at the company level. Size and scope doesn't need to be addressed as much at a department or division level, but at a company level, got to have that. If you're making something available to the market and nobody takes advantage of it, what good is it? The size and scope that your business wants to contribute an extraordinary value to the marketplace, that needs to happen. If it's not happening, then what's the point? Sales matters, but not sales from the perspective of manipulating people to give you money. Sales matters for the philanthropic endeavor of giving away value to the marketplace. So the size and scope gets to be a statement of what are we going to contribute. Sales, by the way, should also always be being done from the standpoint of what can we contribute and a value-centered approach from a heart-forward approach for heart and spirit getting delivered for your company. If it's not, it's at minimum 5 times less effective and also burns salespeople out and drives them to drink. Okay, And then what does your role look like? If this is a small business, if you're engineering a small business, one of the things that you can include in your vision statement is, what does your role look like 3 years from now? Well, I'm managing people more. I'm spending more of my time here. I've got more time in my family because I've set up things as an entrepreneur, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You want to craft a picture of what you want your role to look like. Very important for small business owners, but also can be important for executives who want to move on to something else. Okay. This is this is a client of mine that put together a statement. This is a little bit more verbose statement. I'm just going to take the time to read it real fast. You're going to hear the things in here that we just went through. So this is January 2019. North & Co. is leading real estate brokerage firm with the highest production per agent. People are lining up to work with us. People are lining up to work for us. North & Co. has earned a reputation for setting a new standard in the real estate industry, as positively shifted how buyers and sellers perceive realtors. We are now the most professional organization in real estate, and our agents have the highest real estate intelligence quotient and emotional quotient, period. Our standards for local branding, personal presentation, on-point customer communication, sophistication with market data, and customer experience are all always leading edge in the industry. We create the system behind an unforgettable and unparalleled real estate experience. We are offered opportunities to speak to the media, industry, and public, locally and nationally. If you're not represented by North & Co., then you're putting your biggest investment at risk, is a common conversation in the marketplace. We're the best in the industry because our people are the best in the industry. Our agents have the highest per agent unit and volume metrics in the industry. We attract the best agents by providing and enabling them to push to new levels of aptitude and performance. We have the most streamlined, innovative, and dynamic business model ever designed. Our productivity is derived from two cornerstones of our business. First, our ability to create sales plans and strategies that support our agents' individual gifts and talents. Second, our skill to identify and strategically develop top performers and place them on a platform of training, mentoring, and modeling after. Individual strengths are identified to design each agent's success. Everyone here hits their goals. Specialization, innovation, teamwork, authenticity, and commitment are at the core tenets of our business, and they drive everything we do. Everyone at North & Co. is defined by their passion and fueled by their vision every day. If you want to be challenged and be at your best, then you want to work with us. We close $600 million in sales volume. We're a $15 million a year organization and operate with 20% profitability. This is an example of a verbose vision statement. It's a little bit longer winded, and there's a lot of things. A lot of man hours went into the design of this, and a lot of people got aligned to get behind it. A lot of people touched this and put their own mark on it. That was to encourage alignment in what it is that they were trying to accomplish. Not just the people the ownership of North & Co., but the key teams inside of North & Co. all got to shape the vision that they were standing for and what they wanted their brokerage to be about. We're going to talk about this for just a couple of minutes here, but I'm going to say it here now. This is not a vision statement that sits on a wall that nobody pays attention to. It's brought up, it's talked about, it's scrutinized. The words matter. Everything in this vision statement matters. People are paying attention to it, and they're taking it really seriously. Within 3 years, this was a vision statement that was written January 2019. This was they actually fulfilled everything in this vision statement. This was written in 2017. I want to say, I can't remember, it was late 2016 or 17. And they were named the #1 business in the state of Arizona by ratingarizona.com. Here's an example of a cut and dry and to the point vision statement. This is with Workers' Compensation Company of America, vision statement for 2025. A $1.6 billion workers' compensation risk management company that serves as an alternate platform for the workers' compensation system. Any company serious about controlling costs would need to be a customer. Every employee is empowered to produce that result, and they feel nurtured and appreciated, and there is effectively no turnover. We have our own building with our name on it, and it calls for interaction and accountability, period. That's what their executive team and board of directors wanted. kept it much more simple. But the job of writing a vision statement is to say what the market wants. And if you're a division, if you're a department or a division, then you want to say that your market is your company. Your company is the market that you're supporting and creating inside of. So it's still the word market still can work in that domain. But the game here is to not only say what the market is yearning for, but to say what's in the key people's heart and spirit for what we're going to bring to the game and have be special about us. Okay, so now we're going to talk about having the vision truly be in charge. This is a whole different ball of wax. And again, this is this training is a training that would take over time. This business of authorizing oneself in the matter and having a voice and speaking on behalf of the vision. I'm going to roll the first two things in together for the sake of time. So what it takes to authorize yourself is to raise that intention, the cool thing that you're inventing, the thing that makes your heart sing, the thing that's going to make your business sing in the marketplace. To raise that to be more important than anything your mind can come up with for why not. Any reason, justification, victim story, whatever your mind can come up with for why not good enough. This is more important. Authorization of oneself in the matter of what truly matters means that that's what truly matters. Not the argument for why not. Sometimes it's tough for people to get there. Sometimes it's really easy for people to get there. They get it in 2 seconds. Like, oh yeah, that's okay. I can do that. And other people struggle with it, but that's the game. What it takes though, if you look at the third thing here, is to get ourselves out of the way, getting ego out of the way. If you really want people to be aligned around common purpose, then we don't get to be there. Visionary leadership is always speaking truth to what matters, not opinions to promote themselves, or engineering and manicuring how to make themselves look good, or hoping that today will bring about them their own good personedness in the eyes of others. That's not what visionary leadership does. Visionary leadership speaks truth to what matters and is arguing on behalf of what matters. That means I don't even get to show up. I don't get to be in the conversation. I'm arguing on behalf of the vision itself. I can argue with another person and we can go at it committedly, maybe even in an intense way, but there's no nastiness to it. There's people that have watched me argue with a CEO before where we're arguing and we're both committed to something. And either the CEO's argument will win with me or my argument will win with the CEO, but one or the other, but we're not arguing for each other's sake. We're not arguing on our own opinion's behalf. There's no need to be right. We're arguing on behalf of the vision, and we're playing with the idea until we figure out what best serves the vision. And in that way, there's a brilliant elevation of consciousness that can happen by getting ourselves more and more out of the way so that the vision is what does the talking. Again, some people struggle with this more than others. Some people get it instantly and they're like, okay, I can put myself aside. That's what matters. I get to argue on its behalf. I don't even need to show up. Brilliant. And then other people struggle with the idea of they don't really understand how to get their own judgments and opinions out of the way because they're a little bit more too committed to their judgments and opinions. There are lots of exercises that can come for how to have people get themselves out of the way and see the difference between their own perspective and the vision's individual perspective. The vision really does have its own perspective. And once you start to be able to argue on its behalf, that's true visionary leadership. Okay. Next thing. So then this is one of the things I really wanted to get to this aspect of it. And if there's a little bit of confusion about authorizing yourself and speaking on behalf of the vision and getting yourself out of the way, if there's a little bit of confusion about that, maybe we'll have some time toward the end here to talk about it again. But I really wanted to say this. This is a hack, like a leadership hack or an operative hack for being a visionary leader. Once you've designed something that's truly exquisite and you've done a good job gaining the alignment of the people underneath you inside of what you're trying to create. Reference the vision over and 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 over ad nauseum. You're going to feel like you shouldn't say it again. Yes, you should. And then you're going to feel like you shouldn't bring up the vision again. Yeah, you should. And then you're going to feel the next time you have something to say, you're going to feel like, man, I shouldn't bring up the vision again, should I? Yes, you absolutely should bring up the vision again, over and over and over, because it puts you in the right frame of mind. It puts them in the right frame of mind. We're all in this for something truly special to happen. Nobody's here for their own personal whatever. It's for something truly special to happen. And by framing things in that way, the vision becomes more and more adopted as what we care about. Yes, you should bring it up again. Should I bring it up again? The answer is yes. Should I bring it up again? The answer is always yes. Bring it up again. Referencing the vision will never, ever, ever, ever be a fault, ever. So that's kind of a little bit of a hack. It centers you in what's important and also centers them in what's important. And that's what we're really after. We're after centering people around what is really, really, really and truly important. So in this way, so if you think about it as a leader or a manager, kind of running out of time, but if you think about it as a leader or a manager, our job is to intervene in the way that it is so as to make it better. We're always intervening in things. By referencing what it is that you're standing for, you get a huge amount of permission from all of the parties that are there. You get a huge amount of permission to intervene in what's there so as to make it better, because what you're arguing for and what you're intervening from isn't your opinion, isn't your ego, isn't your thing, isn't trying to make people look bad, isn't trying to make yourself look good. It's, this is what really matters, and I'm intervening on its behalf. You become a spokesperson for what matters by referencing the vision over and over and over. So if you just did that, you'd probably get yourself into getting yourself out of the way. You'd probably get into speaking on behalf of the vision, and you'd probably work yourself into authorizing yourself, even if you haven't yet, just by referencing the vision over and over and over. The other thing you get is a lot of alignment. And then the last part here is where it says, when your staff starts referencing the vision, when you hear them talking about it, which can happen really fast, by the way. It doesn't take like a really long time. It could be a matter of a couple of weeks. It could be a matter of a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. When you hear them referencing the vision, well, they say it says in the vision this, so I think we should this. You hear them starting to do that, you know you've won the game of the alignment game. They're arguing for what really matters rather than arguing for their own opinions or their judgments or whatever goes through their head. Okay, this is the last thing that I want to talk about around visionary management, and it's off the beaten path from the last thing. It's its own idea. When I train managers, I've trained 300 or 400 people to manage other people, just managers, whether they're a general manager for a therapy clinic or they're a vice president of a division of 1,100 people. It doesn't matter. One of the things that's really important around being a manager of people or a leader, if you really want to be a great leader, then you have to hold people's futures in your hands honorably. You just do. If you're going to intervene in people's performance, if you mean to intervene in people's performance and you want to bring people together, so if race doesn't matter, culture doesn't matter, anything doesn't matter, it's just an alignment of spirit where people get to express themselves in higher thought and consciousness and in spirit. If that's what we want, one of the best ways to do that is, of course, to create a vision that everyone aligns themselves behind, and we're all building cathedrals, building the same cathedral together. Yes, that's true. However, a really good leader understands that people are the most important thing, except the vision is really the most important thing. But not really. The people here are really the most important thing. But not really. It's not really the people. It's the vision. That's what gives us all the opportunity to be together, to work on anything. Why we have a relationship in the first place is because of this vision, this exquisite thing that we're working on. That's the most important thing. Yeah. But vision is really the most important thing. But people are. That paradox of that they're both the most important thing is where a visionary leader stands. The vision is the most important, but people are the most important. You've got both. And a real visionary leader never loses sight of either one of those things. They're both the most important thing. And holding people's future, I can't tell you how many Whether I've worked with Apple executives, I've worked with a lot of executives in big companies. I've worked with executives in smaller companies. And I can't tell you how many times somebody will tell me that they're having a problem with one of their directors, or they're having a problem with this person. The first thing that's out of my mouth is, what's that person's future? What do they really want for their future? And how does that fit in with what we're trying to build? Just so I can wrap my head around it. I'm not asking it like a quiz. I'm not putting the question to them to be a jerk. I just want to know, from my sense of what it is that I'm working with and what I'm dealing with here, for being able to build something that really matters for getting this person's growth and development on track and intervening in their performance. I can't tell you. I don't think I've ever had somebody that I haven't yet trained. I don't think I've ever had anybody be able to answer that question. It's no wonder they're having trouble intervening in that person's performance. That person doesn't trust them to develop them. If I'm standing next to that person and I am holding that person's future in my hands honorably, meaning I'm treating it like I'm going to be the creative source for that person getting where they want to go in their career and maybe in their life, then that person's going to have a lot of trust for me to intervene with them and develop them. If I'm not holding their future in my hands, the trust they have is greatly diminished. We have this vision and you should be on board with the vision. And I have your paycheck and you should do what I say because I have your paycheck. Not terrible places, but I get so much more alignment in intervening in their behavior. And all I have to do is hold myself responsible for getting them where they want to go in their career. Even if that means that where they want to be in 5 years is managing their parents' chain of 7-Elevens in Southern California. My job is to get them ready. My job is to get them prepared. And if that's, and I take that job seriously as someone's manager, and the managers I train take that job seriously for their people. So this is where visionary leadership meets people. Both are equally important. So if you have a takeaway, it's yes, invent an exquisite vision and onboard everybody into that exquisite vision and then bring it up all the time. But then also find out what each of the people that are working for you, find out what they need. Find out what they want. Find out where they're going in their career and in their life. Write it down and have that be something that you're developing them toward. But those two things leaning on each other make it so that there's almost no way that somebody could end up being anywhere else but fully aligned with purpose, fully aligned with their fellow workers, and fully aligned with what the company intends. And that state of existence is one that is 100% inclusive. There's nobody that would ever find themselves out in the cold. And when you go to address things where people are not coming from higher consciousness in their relationship with each other, you have all of the power to address what's missing and instantly turn it into what you need to for inclusion. Okay. How are we doing on time? I think I'm pretty close. Yes, she wanted me to talk to 3:20. That was 3:18. I need to exit. I need to stop sharing this. Tisha, is there anybody with a comment or hand raised or anything that I should be paying attention to? Oh, Tisha, are you still here? I can't see if anybody has their hand raised or anything, and I can't hear you either.
Mostly that, yes, people are in agreement with you that those are powerful and true statements. The other one that I'm seeing right now, that they learned to drop the rope with 4-year-olds this year, saving lots of gray hairs. So yeah, I can see that. So.
All right, great.
Yeah. Those are the couple that have come through, but I think you've got some good points.
Okay.
AJ will be in here in a second. Do you have any closing comments?
Well, the closing comments I can reiterate and spend a little bit more time with if we don't have other things. But the business of when you're talking about holding people's future in your hands, there are some really, really interesting things that come from that. Oh, AJ's back. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right. No, we're in a good place. We're in a good place to stop, actually.
All right.
I was going to keep spitballing for a second because there's so many tunnels I could go down, but we're actually in a good place to stop.
Absolutely. I mean, you could keep spitballing. You and I, we could keep going over doing this for hours. But no, I think it's definitely, I think the way you tie things in with higher consciousness and leadership and that exquisite purpose crafting, I really, really, I do want to say of course, I enjoy all of our conversations, but this was just especially so powerful because I think what a lot of people need is sort of being called up without being called out. And that is exactly what you do. You challenge people to step up. You don't call them out. And that is something that I know companies struggle with. I do have a question here. What are the hurdles you faced in bringing up employees to follow the vision?
It depends on prowess. I remember when you say hurdles, I remember some of my earlier times intervening in things, even as a consultant 11 years ago, but 25 years ago when I first started managing companies, 25 years ago. Man, there's so many mistakes. But mostly it was where ego got in the way for me and finding ways to get me nowhere to be found and be speaking on behalf of something that really matters. When that's the case, there's very little pitfalls. There's very little that's difficult. When somebody really is a spokesperson for something that matters, when I'm a spokesperson for what matters, or someone I'm training becomes that spokesperson, there's just not a lot that can get in the way. There just isn't.
Absolutely. And I agree with that. And to add context to that, I think recently you and I had a conversation where I asked you, how do I step out of my own way? How do I make sure I'm not coming from a space of ego?
Yeah.
I still remember, I don't remember the exact words, but your response was something to the effect of, what is the impact you want to have?
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever forget this, because you said, as long as you focus on that, you can't get in your way.
Yep.
You're going to get out of your own way, because as long as you focus on what the mission is and what needs to be achieved, and you realize that that's far greater than you or any other one person, then you can't be in your way. You're going to get out. And I'm going to carry that lesson forward, as you know, for so many years to come, for the rest of my life. And of course, I could sit here and I could drop all of these gems that you've dropped on me over the past 6 weeks, and we would be here for the next 2 hours. But, I want to be very respectful of your time. I highly recommend, if, for anybody watching this live or watching this later, the easiest way to get in touch with Zanzibar is by going to his website. And there you go. Just pop that up. By going to his website and getting in touch with him and getting your questions answered. I know he's changed my life in the short time I've known him, and I'm sure he will change yours as well for the better. So with that being said, Zanzibar, again, thank you so much for contributing your time and expertise and insights for my little dream of this inaugural C3EB Summit for Equity and Belongingness. And thank you for walking the walk with me and being such a generous contributor as one of my partners as well. I beyond appreciate that. I think you exemplify that idea of sponsoring and mentoring somebody when you believe in them, and how much confidence and strength that gives to your protege or whomever you're sponsoring. You really actually walk this walk every day that I've known you so far. So thank you for being you. Thank you for your service to all of us. And for all of our viewers, whether you're tuning in live or watching this later, thank you. Don't forget to leave your comments. And once again, as a parting note, thank you to all of our sponsors and partners, including Zanzibar Enterprises, and also Essential IT, our web team, Defy the Status Quo Marketing, and the Nielsen Company. We'll see you all in the next session, and we hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Thank you.